start with potholes because you committed to doing something in terms of what Mr. Burrell requested. What exactly will you be doing?
Gary asked me to look at the process that a Nova Scotian who can go through when they feel like their vehicle's been damaged by a pothole that hasn't been repaired in due process. And I committed to him to go look at that process. He highlighted during his question that the percentage of successful applicants had been going down over the last number of years. So I committed that I'd go and have the department look at, first of all, that particular process that we currently use and our insurer, and whether or not that's satisfactory or not, and if not, is there a third-party independent adjudicator that could actually be there to kind of mediate both sides.
As a rural MLA, do you hear similar complaints?
Oh, I think every rural MLA hears them for sure. I've been hearing them now for 16 years.
But have you been hearing about complaints about the program as opposed to the products?
I don't think I've heard any more than I have over the years. Gary's numbers that he highlighted, which I said I'd go check, obviously caused some concerns. So we'll look.
Is this the first you've heard of it?
What's that?
That people are complaining about the process by which they try to
No, what he had highlighted was that with the number going down, I've continued to, as I've been here now 17 years, that every year at this time of the year we get people into our office, they fill in the process, go through it, and some are successful, some aren't, and typically in anything that when you get a yes, you're happy, and when you get a no, you're not.
Right, but is it fair for the department to be then adjudicating or figuring out whether or not they've been fair or not?
Well, I don't know if that's the case. We have an independent insurer who looks after this stuff as well. So I committed to go look at the program. I don't know it in details, and I appreciate the question. It was constructive, and I said I would do what I could.
The NDP introduced a bill today that would create so-called bubble zones around hospitals to shield women from anti-abortion protesters. I'm wondering your thoughts on whether or not that ought to be in place and whether or not you think those types of protests are in fact a barrier to access.
Well, first of all, I support in principle the bill, specifically around our wives and daughters should have access to medical care they choose to have access to. But what I've said, and I think we should go beyond that, it should just, in those healthcare facilities, all of us who want to access healthcare should not feel like we have to go through a protest line, regardless of what that is. And we had a conversation with them, and I had the house leaders would talk to each other. But in principle, the bill that she has makes sense. Putting a bubble zone around those healthcare facilities is something that I think is
Is it something that you think can be accomplished during this sitting, or is it something that perhaps we'll have to carry into the fall?
No, I mean, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it this session. We're prepared to look at broadening the exemptions of what's not allowed inside of that bubble zone. I think we can do that relatively quickly.
So what sorts of things do you think should be broadened to include what?
Well, anyone who's walking in, if you're going into a hospital, regardless of what it is you're going in for, you don't need the stress of having to go through protests or people handing you pamphlets opposed to whatever. What we're talking about is ensuring that people have free access to their healthcare facilities.
Would that include labor picket lines?
I don't believe it would distinguish between any kind of picketing or access. I think you need to have access to facilities. Let me be clear. I think to be fair to the host of the Democratic Party and to the NDP, they're not saying people can't protest. They're just saying inside of this zone that people need to have access to the delivery of services, and we share that. And we'll have a conversation. The two host leaders will see whether or not they can find a common ground on this bill.
Have you ever heard of this birth alerts issue in Nova Scotia? Was that the first you heard of it?
The one that was raised to me by the member from Dartmouth North, yes, yeah. But she gave me some information. I'm going to go look at it, and I gave a copy to the
The FMA today includes some immunity for government and its agents, including ministers as it relates to VLTs. Why does the government think that that's an appropriate step to take?
There is now a situation going to the courts in Newfoundland and Labrador. You'll see this spread across the region, I think, across the country, to bring this legislation in to ensure that taxpayer has some protections in this. I don't know the details of the actual case in Newfoundland and Labrador, but certainly highlighted justice departments across the country. It came to us in the
Is it unfair? Is it unfair to folks who have an illness? Gambling addiction is an illness.
Yes.
Is it unfair to then take away their ability to seek redress against the people who preside over the machines?
Well, I think there's other ways that we can, working with them, provide that support. Ultimately, they make the determination whether they continue to do that. But there's ways of self-exclusion. There's ways that we bring people in and out of the system. We provide support. There's been strategies that have had positive results. We continue to make sure that we're providing those strategies. At the same time, not putting at risk the entire taxpayer for the decisions that we make individually.
But if they cause so much harm, and they've proven to cause so much harm, why not get rid of them altogether?
Well, there's certainly been over the course of a period of time where there's been restrictions around access, people have been self-exclusion, slowing down the machines at different times. All of those things have been working towards providing those supports, and we will continue to do so.
Does the amount of money that VLTs generate for the budget make it too difficult a proposition to simply consider the idea of banning them outright?
No, I think if you go back, it wasn't all that long ago, we had black machines in the province. This activity was ongoing. It's a question of if you're going to have it in a regulated environment. We believe it's better in a regulated environment. We put steps and issues around how do we provide supports for those who become addicted to gambling in general, and we will continue to do so.
Premier, I was wondering if I could ask you to clarify something that came up in the scrum on Friday. I asked you that day in relation to Hugh McKay if you were aware back in October on the 15th, the day that his statement came out, if you'd been aware before then that he had an alcohol addiction. You said no, you weren't. But then when I went back and I looked at the scrum tape from the 15th of October, you said at the time that I was aware that he was in recovery, but I didn't know that he had relapsed. I'm just wondering if you could square those two statements.
No, I didn't know. I had no idea that Hugh McKay was in recovery at all. As I said to you, all my members were screened for cabinet, including him. There was no disclosure for that. There had been no indication to me at any time that there was any alcohol issues related to Hugh McKay until I got a call that there was a impaired driving charge.
So were you mistaken on the 15th of October?
I don't know
when you gave
exactly.
that
I don't
answer?
know what the question was, but I can tell you that I didn't know. So I don't know what the question was in my answer to it, but I definitely, if that's how the answer was, definitely was not I was mistaken, because that's not it. The reality is I found out about his alcoholism when he was picked up for impaired driving. I can honestly tell you wouldn't even be able to tell you if you'd asked me prior to that whether he drank alcohol or not. I wouldn't be able to tell you yes or no, because I couldn't have told you that. And I've been around people a fair bit.
Okay, last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.